Bengaluru, that counts as the third top startup city across the globe, opens up a new and exciting opportunity for all innovators to come on board at the Dayananda Sagar University. Founded by late Sri R. Dayananda Sagar and late Dr. Chandrama Sagar, Dayananda Sagar Institutions is into education and healthcare for over 6 decades. DSI is today considered a center of excellence in producing students with exceptional academic skills and leadership qualities. DSI is now headed by Dr. D. Hemachandra Sagar and Dr. D. Premachandra Sagar. This leadership has successfully managed and excelled in ensuring excellence in all of its offerings. This great foundation ensured DSI to be invited by the Karnataka state government to set up a private university in the state. DSU could be among the very few campuses in the country to have a well-planned startup village that houses innovation labs supported by industry leaders. DSU provides a platform to visionaries and inventors to experiment their ideas. Globally reputed MNCs that include Autodesk, Bosch Atos, IBM, GE, VMware, NVIDIA and Boston Bosch Rexroth, Dassault Systems are now part of the DSU initiatives. These companies have invested vast resources to create a one-of-its-kind facility to be used by the community. Joining this great movement is the support from industry bodies, Indian Electronics and Semiconductors Association, Manufacturers Association of India, and Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru. The Startup Village will now receive guidance from Arizona State University, Rochester Institute of Technology, and Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago. With a reputation for innovation, are strong backers of the DSU initiatives. Distinguished individuals from industry, academics, research, government are lined up to mentor each of the entrepreneurial ideas to ensure all good ideas meet with success. A bouquet of specialists on call, patent lawyers to accountants, costing and taxation specialists, company secretaries, procurement engineers, bankers, designers, packaging specialists, logistics experts is one more feature of the DSU campus. Every year, groups of individuals enter the DSU portals with a burning passion and a dream to achieve. With the combined support and resources at their command, they are now sure to walk out of the DSU campus as owners of the companies enlisted on the National Stock Exchange and a university degree. The ecosystem created by DSU can now accommodate 300 enterprises and welcomes the community to take advantage of this great option and work towards making India a strong manufacturing nation. For passionate and innovative youth, Bengaluru is the place to be. And presenting
Dayananda Sagar University. Live the dream.
Just a second, Bhairavi. I'll put on the screen and then it will be over to you.
Yes, sir.
Just a second. Just a second.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
just put on the screen. Okay, screen visible, Bhairavi?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning and warm welcome to all the distinguished principals and highly esteemed teachers from across Pan India who have joined us today. It's a pleasure to have you all for this enlightening webinar, an integral part of Dayananda Sagar University School Development Initiative Program. We are truly delighted to have such a gathering of forefront educators from across Pan India here with us. Dayananda Sagar University takes pride in being part of renowned Dayananda Sagar University institution, an institution known for its excellence in education for over 60 years. It comprises of top-notch colleges, universities, schools, and international institutions. Our SDIP initiative is designed to empower and invigorate our dedicated educators who play a crucial role in nurturing young minds. In today's fast-paced world, prioritizing mental health, happiness, and achieving harmonious work-life balance is essential for every individual. This program is wholly committed to advancing the professional development of educators, offering a range of workshops and training sessions. High school is a point where students are at a crucial stage of their academic and personal development. Effective classroom management is crucial in higher school education as it plays a vital role in creating positive learning environment that can enhance academic achievements, promote students' social and emotional development, and facilitate effective communication between the teachers and the students. To understand as how to manage the classroom in an effective way, let me introduce you all for our first speaker for the day, Dr. Venkatappa Krishnamurthy. Sir has obtained his PhD in neurochemistry from NIMHANS in 1990. He has served Indian Council of Medical Research, Bengaluru from 1978 to 2003 as its assistant director and head in the division of occupational hygiene of regional occupational healthcare. He worked as a Ford Foundation Chair Professor, Kathmandu University, Nepal from 2003 to 2007. From 2007 to 2020, Sir has worked at PES University, formerly known as PES Institute of Technology, Bangalore, as Professor of Chemistry, Dean Evaluation, Dean Academic Affairs, Director of Center for Medical and Environmental Biotechnology, and as the Registrar. He is currently working as Research Professor of Chemistry at Dayananda Sagar University, Bangalore. Welcome, sir. Our second speaker for the day is Dr. Chetna Lakhotia. She is a psychologist, trainer, and educator. She has completed her research in positive organizational correlates of employee work ethics and spirituality. She is currently engaged as guest faculty at Christ University, Bangalore, and is a faculty development trainer for few renowned schools. She has mentored students of ages 16 and above and teachers of the primary, middle, and high school level. With her deep interest in human behavior, Dr. Chetna has a dream of reaching out to and making a difference in the lives of people. She has published papers in different journals and guided more than 20 master researchers. She has also worked in corporate sectors at senior positions. Welcome, Dr. Chetna.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Now I would request Dr. V.K. Murthy, sir, to deliver his welcome note and set the context. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Bhairavi Chauhan, madam.
Yes,
thank you so
sir.
much. It's my privilege and also honor to extend a very warm and cordial welcome to all the principals of the nation of PUC college teachers, a complete community of teachers who are leading and also basically worked as teachers in classrooms. And I also take this opportunity to, in fact, delighted to have a very, very contextually relevant person here in Dr. Chetna Lakhotia. She is a mind specialist, a person who has studied mind, and mind is so important, and involvement of mind. In fact, the whole education itself is mending the mind, right? So it is so relevant and so nice, and she is very, very, very kindly accepted our invitation, and we are honored to have her to this important webinar. I'm also very happy with my own colleague, Shri Shinde sir, Srinivasa Shinde sir, and his able team. Shinde sir has been the moving force of the Dayanand Sagar University.
Thank you, sir.
His mission role, he has other, duties which he himself has thrust on himself and made the admissions department so meaningful. And we are very happy to have all the participants who have enthusiastically have assembled today, Saturday, bright, sunny morning. And we are happy to talk to you, both formally and informally. After this, let me just take about 5 to 10 minutes to just set a tone for today's theme, that is effective classroom management. 3 words. One is effective, and the other one is the important core in the middle, classroom, and of course, management. Generally, the last word management means it is not something that is existing outside and we follow. You see, when we say management, time can never be managed. It is your self-management. You mend your behavior, you send signals to your mind to do some work in a time frame. So time is just a kind of space that is available there. So time management is self-management. So here classroom management is how a teacher should manage himself to achieve the results, of both not much of his performance, but more of the performance that he transforms the behavior of the students, our task, our stakeholders. So it is the students in prime light that we always transact in education sphere. Now, 3 words come to my mind whenever I talk of education. This is extremely important for us to know. One is the academic, the second one is the ethics, and the third word is the discipline. In fact, the whole education, if you call it as a kind of a unique transaction or unique business, it is important for us to know what this academic mean. What is the meaning of the academics? The simply meaning, of course, we can go on talking hours together about academics, but let me just cut short and tell you that academics is the total work that we do in schools, colleges, and universities, which is very, very unique and different than what we do in other spheres like industry or any other sphere of life when we enter into trades or occupations. See? So it is exclusively the work that we do in schools, colleges, and universities. And of course, it is a mini world by itself. You see, we governed by 3 important activities: curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities. And of course, let me not go into the details of those curricular, extracurricular, co-curricular, but we do. Just enough to say that we study, we play, and also we do some kind of field visits. These are all parts of the culturing and making the mind very healthy inside the body, which is also to be healthy. So mind is just a tool housed in a beautiful house called body. So the whole education centers around keeping up the health of the mind as well as the body, because the mind cannot live outside the body. So in I should say in Nimhan's parlance, it is called psychosomatic. Psycho is the mind, perhaps why they put psycho is because that is more determining, that is more commanding, that is more dominant than the body. Of course, body is very, very important because it houses the mind. Now, this is actually you see, we have beautiful English words, couplets, let me say. We see and we observe, but there is a difference between seeing and observing. Why? Because mindful seeing becomes observing. Hear and listen, right? They are related. They are very important. Hear and listen. Mindful hearing becomes what is called listening. Read and study. We will read so many things, but if you put mind to what we read, then reading becomes study. You see how important the mind role here. You see, it's every centric thing is the mind. So we will have, in fact, the whole philosophy, especially our Indian philosophy says Shikshana. Now, Shikshana means what? Shiksha means punish. Now, punishing here is not a literal meaning of punishing, but see that the characteristic of the mind is to wander and be chaotic. Bring it cool and make it calm so that streamline, so that it can do wonders for you. It can do wonders. Order that, discipline it. That is all is Shikshana. And all that activities that we do is centering around making this mind to behave, making this mind to be in order. So it is extremely important. Having said about the importance of mind, let me talk about some importance of classroom now. Now, classroom, whatever be the situation, people may also, some fraction of people may not believe. And over the period of times, the debate is going on, but we cannot do with classroom management. It is so important. In fact, that is what differentiates between this technology-driven online and the one-to-one contact offline mode of teaching. Classroom teaching has been very, very successful, will be successful in future as well. And more than students, the whole society believes that better you go sit in the class, discipline there, listen to the students, that will not fail because of the obvious results and the good that it has done since so many years, and it will continue to do so. It can never fade away. It will stand its firm ground. So we can't, because of variety of reasons, as Bhairavi made a put up the slide, beyond those things, there are so many good things that happen. In the classroom, you interact, you talk to your friend, you talk to your teacher, you talk to your guest speaker, you talk to visitors, you talk among cordially, formally, informally, you talk, interact. That is not possible in social media. That is not possible in online media. That is it is so nice and so nice to see your verbal and non-verbal communications, feel, experience. All the five senses become completely alert and attentive. That will never happen. It can never happen in any kind of sophisticated technology. I am not against technology. We have to use the technology and make it more better and big. That is my intention. So interaction, social acceptance is so important. After all, we come from society, go back to society. In between, we get educated. So society becomes a permanent station for us. We hail from that, we go back to it, right? And in meanwhile, we visit schools, colleges, and universities, gain information and behave and become useful to us, also to others. That is so important. So if you want to be in society, let you be accepted by society, and that acceptance, that transformation of society getting accepted you is happening in classrooms. It happens in classrooms, which can never happen in any other mode, That's a great thing. Social acceptance is important. Then you have very important thing like personality development. You as a person, develop holistically. You will not be imbalanced. That balance comes in your life. That is extremely important. Balancing, having our complete body and mind in the center of gravity, within the center of gravity, grounded, cool, behaving yourself not adversely, not punishing yourself, blaming yourself, and also being accepted by yourself first and also the society. This is actually the third personality development, possible only through interaction and classrooms. Behavioral development, my God, this is the seat of mind, that cognitive thing, learning. So many things, naughty things gets completely unwound and you become completely well-tuned and sync with all the problems that come up. And you are prepared to face the problem as well. Problems will never bother you, That is behavioral development that happens in classrooms. You are disciplined. You have to come on time, follow the timetable, whether you like it or not, that automatically becomes a habit, and in life it becomes streamlined. And you believe in timelines. Whether you want it or not, you believe it. So there is a transformation that has occurred irreversibly in you, which is a good transformation. Adding to your personality happens in classroom. And clear goal setting happens. My God, this is a threshold. PUC is the threshold of where the goal setting happens, in which stream you have to go, which is so much important. This important decision happens in PUC 12 level. That is, determines your academic career, that determines your life earning actually for yourself and also for your dependents and family and society, ultimately nation as well. Clear goal setting happens, and that is a acquisition slowly happening, doesn't happen immediately, So that happens during this 12th level, and there is a galore of opportunities. These are all invisible bouquets. You have to grab them and possess them, but bouquets are there. The beautiful things are moving around. You will have to open up your eyes and grab them. Never crib that you have missed an opportunity. Plenty of opportunities are there. Is absolutely, I never believe in any employment in any country. It is that you are not ready to take an employment. So you getting improved, you getting yourself carved into, so you sculpting yourself is what happens in classroom. So classroom cannot be avoided. And today we are talking about that particular transformation that happens in the classroom, and how, as teachers, who are the tools, who are the basic, actually the very core of this transformation, how we should, have this to make this to facilitate the students to become adults, be useful to themselves, be useful to society, and also to the nation and world. And it is a great cause. So this is what we discuss, and it is a very important subject. I am so happy. And I would like to tell here some 5 points in next 5 minutes for the teachers. We are all teachers, and you are the student leaders, both teachers as well as principals. 5 things that I feel that it is important. The first thing is that teacher in the classroom should as much as possible, less in teaching, but give more time for student learning. See, if you are a prudent teacher, if you're a wise teacher, you will observe the students change rather than you covering the syllabus. Extremely important, this one. In other words, you shape or you manage time in such a manner that you talk less and see that the transformation in the student maximum. So this means that more talking would, of course, you will have to explain, but not continuously doing the same thing for the entire hour, and manage that hour or period, whatever it is, that session, in such a manner that you teach very less. In fact, the word teach itself is losing the context. You facilitate more the student to think, you see, after all, body, you have gyms to exercise and develop your muscles, but mind has also to be exercised, is it not? Mind also is to be healthy. It also should be resilient. It also should be flexible. It should not be static. It should not be rusted. So thinking makes all this kind of what is called exercise for stretching and having a resilient, a flexible, a charged, and also an active mind. So you have to make the students give opportunity for that, and that is spending more in observing and making the student learning time maximum. This first sutra that students should understand, teachers should understand. It is for teachers. So to facilitate this, ask questions. Instead of you deciphering directly, going to the subject matter, ask question, answer yourself. Sometimes ask questions to students, let them answer so that the thinking becomes invoked, right? So use technology for that matter. So technology can completely fill in all the spaces of your talking. So talking can be reduced, teaching can be reduced, technology will take over that. But you see that how students have changed, and if that is not happening, facilitate it. So use technology as a subsistence tool for you, right? Use plenty of demonstrations, use plenty of audio visual things, use plenty of video, pictures, which last longer in learning, right? Make more importantly everything. The first point I would like to tell is don't give notes, but make students to take notes. Let them do reflective notes. Reflective is thinking, and the consequence is some keywords they pick up, which will remain and they can recall that. The entire sentences is difficult to completely memorize. So, and if possible, help in vetting that notes. When the student submits the notes, please vet it. That means you are more making them to kind of what's called think, and also you are teaching them how to write reports also. So writing is important, you vetting is more important. Instead of you dictating the notes, it will not serve any purpose, or it will serve very, very less purpose, let me say. The second point is, teacher is an instructor. Sometimes you have to give instructions to follow. But many times the instructions are vague, instructions are not understood. It is like asking a meaningful question itself is so difficult, right? That comes by only practice and deep thinking. So you will have to instruct, and the instructions should be such that they should be sharp, they should be straightforward, they should be clearly understood, ensure students have understood, they should be precise, they should be easy to follow by the students, and if possible repeatedly instruct, and see that sometimes make it demonstrative instruction, then it becomes it gets a good place in the correct space of the hard disk of the mind, right? So that is what is important. Instructions means not just reading out, don't do this, do that, go there, don't. No, why you should not do it, how it will harm if you do that. That kind of explanation is more important. The consequences are more important of a danger, instead of anticipating. The anticipating is more important than actually that. That is what is very, very important. Passing on instructions. Many teachers believe that teaching, covering the syllabus is their task, right? It is no doubt it is their task, but that is not the only task. In fact, that is a very small fraction. The third point is ask, don't tell. You derive the concept by an interaction. Sometimes you can ask yourself and open up. Sometimes you can ask students to make it a little more experiential. That experience is a cognitive domain. Please understand. Your experience should become their experience. Here, please understand, we have 5 senses. You want to tell any concept, all the 5 senses to be invoked. Please remember, this is a secret of teaching. When you teach, you should be able to make the students to touch, students to taste, students to smell, students to kind of what is called do all that what these 5 senses do, feel. And here, listen, all the senses have got to be invoked. If you don't make students this Panchendriya invoked, that means you are not an effective teacher. It is extremely important. Remember, now let us take one small example and tell us. Now, you are explaining the beverage coffee, let us say. You can make all the 5 senses completely invoked. Oh, that is a brown liquid which is so warm and fuming and so nice. It is not totally brown, but lightly brown because milk is added in it. Milk is extremely good. It is sugary and it is tasty and it has an aroma that is enthralling, and all the 5 senses have come there. Instead of just telling sip a coffee, the explanation should touch all the 5 senses. The students should experience that. The practical thing happens by teaching, by explanation itself inside the classroom. And of course, If you want to test it, go and have a sip of coffee, verify all that you have learned in the class is true or not. So it is extremely important. This explanation is more important. Exemplification is more. Give examples. And examples giving is much difficult because that is a creative activity. It's a cognitive creative activity. You will have to build an example for the concept, right? So teachers have a big role in this creating. This is why when you start an hour of class, you will have to take a battery of things into the classroom. Suppose you are talking of, say, for example, a rheostat or an ammeter, carry one thing. Suppose you carry some rubber band, talk about elasticity. Show them what is elastic. Simply putting the definition or mass dictating the definition would not do well. That experiential thing is extremely important. Some don't go empty-handed. Of course, your class notes is there, textbook is there, fair enough. But besides that, take a particular article, material, keep it, arrange it. That creates a curiosity. Oh, teacher today has brought this. There is something about this. I should be careful. I should be listening. That scenario is created. Please do that. It becomes more interesting for you and also for the students to learn. The fourth point that I would like to tell is demonstrate. Demonstration is a semi-experience sharing. You see, demonstrate the concept as much as possible. Carry charts, maps, photographs, visuals, and even sometimes the models. You're teaching a brain, take the brain model. They go to the fantasy mode. Understand that what you are having in your hand is their brain. And that is what is needed. So it is important. And how much time it will take for us? It is not at all any time, but it will be so effective. Instead of becoming bland, it will be so spicy, and so the students would receive in a lot of enthusiasm, because there is some curiosity behind that. And there is a kind of what's called demonstration there happening inside the class itself. Demonstrate. And finally, the last point that I would like to tell is accept challenges. Teaching is not just coverage of syllabus. Accept challenges. There will be plenty of challenges. In fact, you find for challenges. There is complete gamut of pedagogical methods that are already set in motion. Follow Bloom's taxonomy. That 5 levels, you have that starting from remember, understand, apply, analyze, create, evaluate. The 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. First 2 levels are over. Now you are in the 3rd level. Application level is PUC. That remembering and understanding is over. It is the school. It is the school domain. The next 4 levels is university that is to be imparting. Bloom, a great educational psychologist. In fact, more I talk about him, I get more thrilled. Set a theory in such a manner. This is applicable to teaching. This is applicable to everything in academics. Setting question paper, Bloom's taxonomy. Teaching, Bloom's taxonomy. Transformation in students, Bloom's taxonomy. So read about Bloom. You will learn a lot and get prepared yourself to be one of such an excellent teacher in the entire world. And the last word that I would like to tell you as a message is, you can always improve all your tomorrows. Believe in that. It is possible. I'm so happy. I am very grateful to Shri Singh sir for having given. In fact, I'm just a proxy. Our Vice Chancellor would have given much better eloquent talk, but he is engaged in some other activity, a very important activity. And I represented Dayanand Sagar University. I'm thankful to Dr. Mr. Shinde for giving me this opportunity. More happy that I shared some very less time to all the teachers, PUC teachers who are so critical. I should say they are all sculptors. They sculpt the minds of the young teachers to facilitate the decisions of careers. And more than all, we have a very bright, very academic oriented education psychologist with us in, for example, our Chaitana ma'am, hailing from a good university in Bangalore, and I leave the floor to her. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for this lovely trend setting for us. In fact, this is a message for all the PU teachers who are there today online with us. This is an exclusive session for you all. We understand today what exactly is the journey when a student comes to this particular junction of life, the 11th and the 12th class. The parents are tensed.
Oh,
The moment the
so
parents
sweet.
say that my child is in 11th, my child is in class 12th, you can understand the house atmosphere.
Yes.
But then I really wonder what will be the atmosphere in the house of the faculties or the teachers. They are every year looking at 11th and 12th students. And the amount of pressure, because parents' expectations from the child is increasing year by year.
Yes.
And I'm sure, today Dr. Chetna is going to tell us, because being a psychologist, a trainer, an educator, she has trained a series of faculties, and especially faculties who are coming from this background. Because while the student is under the pressure, imagine the pressure that is there in the faculty. And
Absolutely.
you have more than
Absolutely.
60, 100, 200 students in your class. Imagine 200 people's pressure if you carry as a faculty. How are you going to be? So let us really enjoy this and understand that how can we make our lives much better. We know that we are entering into a pressure cooker. We have 60 pressure cookers who are every day in the morning expecting something good to come out. And that good to come out can come from these faculties who are today listening to this. And we really wish that the inputs given by Dr. Chetna as well as by Dr. KVM Murthy sir is going to help you a lot. And just to summarize, I'm just taking over, Bhairavi's role over here. The Q&A box is available for all of you. If you have any questions during the presentation that Dr. Chetna is going to make, please key in your questions. We are not allowing for the voice activation due to security reasons. But then you are most welcome to put in your questions in the Q&A box. And once when Dr. Chetna finishes her presentation, then we will look forward to those questions being taken up one by Ms. Bhairavi. Over to you, Dr. Chetna. I'll stop the screen sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think thank you for a really warm welcome. And I think it's an honor to be sharing a virtual screen with, I think, the top educators and teachers and principals. And I think I will definitely try and make sure that I'm able to do justice to what all of you have joined in here for. And very rightly, as Dr. Krishnamurthy mentioned and Bhairavi ma'am mentioned, in terms of how especially after Corona, how our responsibilities as educators has really changed, where it has become challenging. Shinde sir mentioned how it is becoming so stressful because for the parent, it's one child, but for us, it's an entire group of 60, 70. And as educators, we almost always consider all our students as our own kids. And that is why it becomes even more stressful, or we feel very responsible for how they are going to probably work, how they're going to excel, how they are going to follow. So that all kind of comes in the realm of classroom management. And this is just one line that I would want to start with, that we are trying to create a foundation for success. And over here, we may not just be talking about success in terms of getting the best of marks, but we want to make sure that we are creating students who are ready for the world tomorrow. They have skills that are required. And while we have the pressure, as mentioned very beautifully, while we have the pressure of, finishing the course, we have a lot of different issues that we are handling. Disciplinary issues, we have behavioral issues, we have latecomers, we have students who are constantly trying to create, nuisance in the class. We have a nice mix of elements every day when we are going to work. But maybe what I will give today, or what I will share with you out of the experience that I've had over the last couple of years, won't be very big changes that we have to bring in, but they may be very small very small changes or very small things that we can add into our daily routine of teaching that might just have very, very good long lasting effects. And I will also be sharing some instances where, things that I have spoken to or things that I have discussed with a few faculty and how using that has really turned around the way they handle their classes. And again, as very rightly mentioned, because we are looking at a class which is now in a very crucial aspect of their life. They don't want to let go of school. They don't want to accept reality that school is going to get over, versus they also have to fight with that growing up. Now I need to take a serious decision for where my life is going. And that is why, as educators, it becomes very important for us to make sure that while we are conducting our lessons, while we are conducting our classes, we are also indirectly inculcating some skills in those students, which will, make them ready for tomorrow and which will kind of allow them to set their pace when they are stepping out into the external world. Because 12 years of being in school, they're in a very, very supportive environment. And once they step out, it's an entirely new world for them. So that becomes an additional responsibility on an educator's perspective, which again, of course, makes our work a little more overwhelming, but small little things here and there, which can actually make it very, very smooth rather than making it very overwhelming. So without further ado, of course, in terms of why classroom management has been in the talks for a very long time, or rather it became an even more important emphasis after the phase of virtual classes got over, because as Krishnamurthy sir mentioned in the beginning, that the beauty of a classroom is the one-on-one physical contact that we can have with our children. Just the presence of us in the class, the presence of students, looking at them, looking at their expressions, looking at what they are doing in the class, that enhances the quality of our teaching, which of course cannot be obtained as beautifully when we are looking at a virtual platform for delivering the same content or the same quality. So the need, of course, is there because they are at a crucial stage. They are at a stage where they don't just need academic performance, but they also need to have a lot of personal development. They need to have skills that are coming in so that they know how to be themselves, or they know how to present themselves when they start stepping out in the real world. So classroom management basically, it's no rocket science in terms of we really need to change ourselves, or we really need to, bring out major changes in how our class works. But it's just about how we can make our lessons engaging, how we can, make it a student-centric environment where our focus becomes more on the experience of the papers that they are reading, and not just learning and finishing assignments and coming back the next day again. So syllabus completion will always be a priority, but there can be very interactive ways in which we can finish the same syllabus that is given to us. And as educators, we fortunately or unfortunately, we have to accept the fact that the conservative ways of teaching, the traditional ways of teaching are not going to work anymore, because the times are changing, the kind of students that we have are changing, the kind of exposure that they have to content, to media, to information is much, much more than what probably you and I had growing up as students. So that is something that we need to understand as an educator. And this is a line that was told to me once by another educator of mine, and it has always stuck with me for all these years, that as an educator, we always need to remember that we are students first ourselves, and we have to constantly upgrade ourselves. We have to constantly update ourselves to be able to have that connect with our students. So of course, classroom management basically is going to focus on that, where we are certainly looking at minimizing the student misbehavior, so that we don't have a lot of such instances which are taking away our attention to something else, while also making sure that we are maximizing right conduct, we are maximizing their engagement. Because if you see these 2 points that I've put, minimize and maximize, they are like two sides of a coin. The lesser they are engaging in misbehavior, the more they will be engaged in the class that we are taking with them, or the lesson or the portion that we are teaching them. So moving ahead, of course, I will start with looking at such some strategies that we can use to, kind of enhance the kind of experience that we are having. And if I ask you, you are more than welcome to keep putting your replies in the chat that, if I were to ask you as a teacher, do you think a very quiet classroom is the ideal classroom that you are looking at, where everyone is quiet and no one's, making anything, or no one's coming up with any surprise one morning? Do you think that's the ideal classroom that we are probably looking at? So you can keep putting your replies in the chat box. And that's where, it's important to understand that if we are able to control our classroom, that does not mean that we have kept the classroom such that the students understand that they can't ask questions. That is absolutely not the kind of ideal classroom that we are looking at. An ideal classroom will certainly be one, especially with 11th and 12th students, where we need to make sure that they are going beyond their given capacity to think, to explore, to be creative, to think of alternative solutions. And I will be discussing all of that as we progress, through the slides. So the first thing that I would ask you, and the first element that I have picked up as a very effective strategy, is how do we introduce ourselves to the students when we meet them for the first time? Now, a good conversation, we've always said that a good conversation always stimulates a good beginning. So how would you begin your conversation in your class? So it's your first class, second class with a group of students. And again, I would love if you can put your, put your replies in the chat box in terms of how do you think will you be, starting your first class when you are meeting, students for the first time, or over a couple of all the classes that you have with them. How do you think you would be starting your day with them? And this is where I would, I'm not very sure if I will be able to see your answers coming in, but like I said, please keep putting in your answers in terms of how you would begin your conversation in the class. And this is where a lot of researchers, a lot of successful educators have mentioned how, simply starting the class with a smile is what sets the tone for the entire class that is to come, because we don't know what background the child may be coming from, in the sense we don't know what kind of a morning did the child have before coming over here. And I don't know, I may have had a bad day too, where I got stuck in the traffic for too long, and already my enthusiasm for the day has boiled down. So we don't know what kind of a morning setting may anyone be coming from, but that one smile that we can give to them when we are setting, or when we are starting the class, often sets the tone for them to kind of feel that, okay, no matter what, we are here with ma'am now and we are here to learn. So that kind of helps us start the class on a very positive note. And it also allows us to, for that period of time, forget the morning that we had, forget the troubles that we have. And I'm not saying that it's magic that we smile and we forget about all those troubles, but it definitely allows us to be a little more composed for the session that we need to take with the children day in and day out for about 7 to 8 hours in a day continuously. And that this small magic goes a long way in terms of, setting the tone. Then, of course, it's also about how we are introducing ourselves. And this is where I've often told teachers that, you may be dealing with the same class. So for 11th students who move to 12th, they already know you because they have been taught by you previously. But so what? Can we still, when we are starting a new session with them in class 12, it's always better to start on a fresh note. When we start on a fresh note, when we start with a fresh blackboard, students know that, okay, this is a restart. This is another chance for us to come back. This is another chance for us to prove ourselves, prove our mettle. And that again, kind of, indirectly gives a very motivational feeling to the students as well as the teacher. And this feeling is not that ma'am has forgotten what we've done previously, or ma'am has forgotten that we've been naughty in the previous class, but it's still kind of, it gives them a reinforcement, or it gives them a reassurance that, okay, of course, she is not forgotten, but we are still ready to start with a clean slate again, because it's a new class. It's again a new set of pressures, a new set of expectations that are going to come out. So like I said, if you've been with the same batch before, maybe make your introduction a little more interesting. interesting. Maybe, just add a pinch of humor, add a pinch of joke there, that, oh, I think in the last session when we were in 11th, I think you all had a slightly difficult time with me when it came to assignments, but let's see if we can make it more fun this time. And you could just twist around your introduction in a way that, appeals to children, and that again tells them that you are willing to and you are ready to start with a clean slate. And along with introducing self, as again very rightly mentioned previously, that along with introducing ourselves, sometimes it's very, very important to establish certain expectations right in the beginning. And I'm not saying this because Google told me this. I'm saying this out of my experience over the years, that when you set expectations in the beginning, and these expectations may not have to do with I want you all to score good marks in my class, and I want you all to, submit your submissions in deadline. Those are unset expectations, but there could be more expectations that can be set right at the beginning, so that children know what is expected out of them. Children know what are the do's, what are the don'ts, especially when it has to do with your class. And because every teacher has a different personality, we can all have our different do's and don'ts for our class. There is no set rule in terms of what expectations you need to set for your class, but that can be dependent on the subject that you're teaching. That could again be dependent on the number of students that you have in your class. It could be 40, 60, 70. Of course, it ranges between that. But having clear expectations right at the beginning is extremely important and crucial, so that students know and they are not in a state of, confusion. So, for example, I'll give you two instances. In the first instance, I tell children, you read half of chapter 3 and answer some questions. Now, this is so vague, where the students may not know first half has to be read, second half has to be read, or until where ma'am finished yesterday, do we have to read the remaining half of the chapter that is left? So instead of that, we can probably communicate our message in a much clearer manner, that I want you to read from page number 121 to 123 and answer question number 4, 5, and 6 for today's lesson. Just an example for you. Relate with what establishing clear expectations speaks of. And I've often tried this strategy with high school, rather with, children of that age who are in that, very rebellious age of 16, 17, 18. It's always a very smart strategy to ask them to create rules. Let them create rules, let them create deadlines. So you give them a bracket that, it's not like I'm giving you 6 months to submit your assignment. You have you have 2 weeks to submit your assignment, but between those 2 weeks, you can decide amongst yourselves what is the date that you're setting for the submission. It may sound very unrealistic to begin with, but trust me, it tends to work really, really well. I'll tell you why. Because when students participate in rule making, when students decide the date that they are going to turn in their submission, the onus is now on their shoulder. The responsibility now falls on their shoulder, that now if they don't stick to the date that they have promised, they somewhere have that feeling of guilt of not living up to their own expectation. Once again, like I say, these recipes will work depending upon what kind of a class that you're dealing with. But this is one strategy that has often tend to work, because the minute we put responsibilities on their shoulder, because now they are at a point where they have to assume responsibilities. So if we drop the responsibility in their court, they are even more careful about living up to deadlines. And they also know that if they do not live up to the deadlines, what consequences can follow as a result. So clear expectations could be to do with a variety of things. It could be about always being on time. And this is where educators being very important role models themselves, where they have and I've often heard people say that when you're dealing with younger kids, you are like a role model, because they look at you like their mother or a parental figure. But trust me, no matter how old kids get, they are still kids, they are still students, they are still children, and they will look up to us as role models when it comes to modeling some good behaviors, modeling some bad behaviors. And that's where our self-management, our punctuality, our preparations are all going to reflect in terms of how they are going to take us and how they are going to respect us. So that's, of course, in terms of always being on time, where even students know what coming on time means to the class. And if they are consistently coming late to class, make a rule that if you are consistently coming late to class, you will have to wait outside for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and only after that I'm going to allow you to come and sit inside the class. And trust me, no matter how naughty the child is, they may on the face show that they're very happy to just stand outside the class and not attend, but they're actually very curious in terms of what is ma'am covering in the class. I'm not able to write it down in my copy, so I know that I'm now starting to lag behind what is being done. So these expectations, if they are set in the beginning, they know how to be. I'm not saying they will completely curb disruptive behavior or students will not be challenging anymore. There are no magic potions or magic rules for that, but it's only about how we can try certain strategies and see if it becomes or if it makes it a little smoother for the class that we are dealing with. And then keeping your classroom clean. So this is again another rule that we can tell them, that keep some basic rules that we need to maintain in the class. So let's say if you're eating in the class during lunch, make sure that you've cleaned up the area before you come back to this. Very basic discipline things that we can tell them. Again, be friendly with everyone. Now this is where we're not saying that they need to be really in terms of being friends with the entire class, but this is where we need to start inculcating skills like teamwork. We need to inculcate skills like we have to accept everyone for the differences that they have, because once they step out of school, these are the skills that they will be required to hold on to as very important skills. And this is where I've also always I've seen and I've also told people that these are skills that we don't need to take out time from our schedule. Now we already have a tight schedule, we have a huge syllabus that needs to be covered, and now one of you may ask me that how can you practically really inculcate these things when you are so bothered about finishing the syllabus in time. Now this is where the beauty comes, where we could inculcate some of these skills just when we are teaching them a lesson. Let's say we are teaching them something in English, and that's where we could come out with a concept where this working with people or respecting intercultural differences is something that goes a long way in terms of making us come out as better people. So these may not in the beginning, of course, they need to be told out, but we can remind them about these expectations through the text that we are teaching or through the lessons that we are delivering to them. Raise your hands if you want to say. Now this is another very beautiful segment where you can have your own non-verbal gestures set for the class. So for example, you want to ask a question, raise your hand. If I raise my finger, it means when I'm talking, you are not talking. And when I put my finger down and when I give you a nod, you can start talking and I will stop talking. So now it's time for you to give me an answer and I will not be talking anymore. And as interesting as it may sound, you can actually have students put up do's and don'ts posters on the wall, or the expectations that they've understood for the class and how they need to behave, whether it's your class or somebody else's class. These are some usual do's and don'ts that they are expected to follow given the age that they have reached for now. So this again tends to work well because there is less of ambiguity. Students have understood what is expected of them. There will still be fallouts. There will still be individuals who won't be on time, and we'll still have to figure out what to do with these students who are coming late. But if majority of the class, if the tone is set for majority of them, it definitely makes it easier, or it makes it better for us to move ahead with our lessons over the entire year. So next, that's something very important is how at this age, it's also important to foster positive relationships. And not just at this age, this is something that starts right from beginning when individuals start their formal learning or when they start to enter school, but they only start understanding these things much more when they have reached a particular age, when they've reached a particular level of maturity, is when they understand how, positive relationships have a role to play. And this is where the teacher-student equation becomes very important, where when we if we know that students are learning from us and students are taking whatever we are teaching them, sometimes it's also important for us to look at how they are taking our teaching method. We may be very confident with what we are teaching, and we may think that our typical way of teaching that we have been using for so long, if that is working, why should I really, bother about changing it? But we may just realize that the way the students are changing, the way generations are changing, maybe they need something beyond what is given in the textbook. Maybe they have reached a point where they can open the textbook, cram everything which is there, and come and write it tomorrow. But is that what they are really looking out for from an education system at the age of 17 and 18? Maybe not. Maybe they're looking out for much more. Maybe they're looking out for more elements like I will probably be able to score. I will try and score. But what I need to know as a student is, how am I going to use this, or how is this going to be useful at all for me when I move out? And these are the challenges which suddenly come into an educator's life, where we thought until 10th it was fine because students were more concerned about understanding the chapters, completion of the syllabus, and scoring for the exams. But in 11th and 12th, their perspective, or at least the perspective of some students, start to change in terms of what they are looking at, or the kind of content they are wanting to be delivered by the educator. So, of course, there are many strategies that can be used, any one, any two, all, again, depending upon where we are, what kind of students are we with, where, a couple of different possible strategies can allow us to foster positive relationships, or give out that gleam of positivity in our class. So showing genuine care and respect, now this is where there is a very thin line between being a friend versus being an educator. So educators can be friendly, where they can show respect for the child, or they can show care for the child, but it should not reach a point where we become so familiar with them that they start becoming over friendly with us. So definitely that's a line that we need to draw, and this only comes with practice, where we have to adopt the authoritarian style of teaching, where the command is still in our hands, but students know that we are somebody who's open to their ideas, who is someone that can be approached if the students want to talk about something. And they may not really come all the time, but just this feeling gives them a very strong, it becomes a source of happiness for them, that, okay, they are with someone who is not just here to teach them and go, but is also there as a figure, as someone who they can depend upon, or who they can reach out if they have something to discuss. Because this is, again, an age where they are dealing with a lot of different mental health issues as well. It could be to do with bullying. It could have to do with, extreme pressure from parents for performing well. We are not, we are not a generation who's not aware of cyberbullying, or who's not aware of how, these these late teens, the kind of issues that they may be dealing with. And amongst all of that, of course, they may not have a platform at home to really come out and speak about the issues that they may have. They may be coming from a very strict parenting background, or they may be coming from a background where they just can't, for some reason, discuss it. And the only place where they possibly think, or they possibly expect they could do something, is maybe at school. And through this open and approachable strategy, we are indirectly telling children, or we are indirectly teaching them, that it's okay to open up. It's okay to, express what you're feeling. But of course, there are some do's and don'ts there as well, in terms of the language that can be used. But those are things that can be communicated through us using, different examples here and there. Get to know their interests. This is also something which, I'll again cover when I come down to how we need to manage our time well when it comes to teaching. And this is where, it so often happens that, we planned something for the day, but it just got over a little early. And now we have 4 or 5 minutes. And the minute students get to know ma'am is over with her portion for today, they'll just start screaming and shouting in the class. And now you don't know how to really, bring them down for the next 3 or 4 minutes which are left. And this can be a very good point for just getting to know their interests, in terms of, okay, so which movie did we watch last? Or, okay, so what is everyone's favorite trending meme right now? Or what is, What is the sport that you like to play once you go back from school? And it may just be a very indirect way of us connecting with the students on something that's different from the typical lesson that they were learning for this beginning 40-45 minutes of our class. And these are very, very small things where we are using time. We are not allowing them to scream, shout, and yell when a class is over a little early, while we are also trying to somewhere develop a connect with the students, because we are not going to deal with them for just a class or two. We'll have them for a long period of time, for about a year, which we'll have to spend with them. And that is why starting on a good note or starting on a very few connecting points can become a very, very smart way to start with them. And I remember this is a strategy that I had used with another group of students, and they had just moved to 11, and until 10th, of course, they are with their set of friends. And in 11th, they suddenly, because of the streams that they choose, they are, some of them are away from their friends, some of them are now in a completely new environment. And this is where I made them play a small game. And all that they were asked to do is they were made to stand in a random circle, all the students of that particular section. And any one volunteer who volunteered to go in first, I told them, just tell us anything about, yourself. It could have to do with anything. Red is my favorite color, or I had sandwich for breakfast in the morning, or physics is my favorite subject. Anything, any one thing that they would want to share about themselves. And whatever they said about themselves, in that entire remaining circle, whoever had the same thing to do, or whoever kind of has a similar favorite color or has a similar favorite subject, was asked to come and knot their arms with the student who volunteered. And this is how the exercise kept going on from student to student. And by the end of the exercise, they realized that all of them were knotting hands with each other. And they understood that no matter how different we are, no matter whichever section we are coming from, there is still so much commonality in us that we can start with. And these small things, these small icebreakers in the starting of our session, they may take just about 10 minutes of our class at max, but those 10 minutes of this beginning activity may set the tone for the entire remaining section that we have, because we've made students start with the idea that this is something that we have to take, or forward for our entire life. Whether we go down to corporates and work with a team, we will never get the chance to choose our team. We may just be put up with random people and we'll have to finish a task. And that's where understanding people, knowing their interests may go a long way in terms of just making a start on the platform that we are all coming from different backgrounds. We may all be speaking different languages, but there still may be something common, one thing that's going to bind us all together as a circle. And it's definitely a very, very good icebreaker to try, and it's effortless. There's no material required, no equipment required. All that you need is yourself and your group of students who are just all over the place, because that's a very difficult time in a student's life, because until 10th they had their safe space, but when they move out to 11th, it's like their entire life is thrown overboard, because new group of students, it's the ending of school. So imagine the amount of turmoil they are going through as students themselves. So it's definitely something to try, that any one of you can try for your class. And positive feedback is something that I really want to emphasize on, where it's very unconscious, but we often tend to get angry at the wrongdoings of the student, but we very often praise them for the small little right things that they may be doing in the class. And we remember, as children, we would get smileys and stars and those things in our copy every day. We would do well. And of course, I'm not saying these are strategies that we can use with older children, because those stars and smileys are really not going to be of any importance to them. But this positive feedback could come out in any possible form. It could come out in verbal communication, where we just appreciate. And this especially works really, really well for the naughty children. When they've not done good on your task, maybe try it one day. Rather than yelling out at them for not doing it right, maybe tell them, or maybe just give them a reinforcer that I usually see that you're so attentive in class, but I don't know what happens when you sit down to write your assignment. Are you usually watching the television when you're doing this? And you may just see that the child will have a smirk on his face saying that, oops, I think my secret got caught. And this is where, that one positive remark for the child may just turn it around for him, where the next time he'll definitely try to do better in your assignments than fool up again. So these are small strategies, but because normally it's a pattern that we maintain, we tend to be we tend to give out, definitely shout when children are not listening, but we are not generally so liberal to give out positive feedbacks when they are doing some small things or some good things. And I remember again with this batch of students in 11th and 12th, they did not want to participate in activities because they said that, we have so much to learn, we have so much to do, that we don't want to take part. And after some motivation to them that, after this, once you step out into the world of work, there will not be much scope for you to participate in activities. So some of them did try to participate. They won or lose, not important. But when they came back, they were made to, they were told that it's so nice that you at least took the initiative to participate, to at least step out of your comfort zone. And that started the entire relay for multiple participations while, attending classes. So we don't know where our small 1 or 2 words and how they are going to create an impact on the mind of the child. And this is not, when I say child, I'm not just relating to younger kids, but like I said, students are students all their life until they've passed out. And if you are an educator for them, you are an educator for them. You are a role model for them, whether they hate you or like you. And the naughtiest ones are the ones that are going to remember you even after they have stepped out of school and years have passed since you taught them. They are definitely the ones who are going to respect you and remember you more. So this mix is always going to be there in the kind of students that we are dealing with. And then another strategy that tends to work well is encouraging peer support, something that I'll pick up in the coming slides, where, because they are now at a point or at an age where encouraging peer support is again a very beneficial skill that tends to work for them and also works for us in terms of completion of the syllabus, where, after we've given them a background on a particular chapter, we could really break them down into teams. We could break them down into smaller groups and give them certain topics to work upon, where what happens is, A, they start feeling valued. B, they understand that they will have to collaboratively work to bring out something, or because it also talks about presenting it in class, they are going to be extremely careful about how they are working on something, because the entire class is going to listen to what they have to say. So this peer support, and there can be multiple strategies. I'll again pick that up in a while, where encouraging peer support goes a long way in terms of smoothing the kind of classes that we can have with children. And empathy, I think I'll pick it up a little later when I come down to another important segment. And recognition, like I said, how you can praise them for their work. It could be anything. It could be a smile for what they have done. If it could be a pat on their back, and it may not be a long-term work that they've done. Just today, they completed the work on time. You can just give them a pat on the back that I'm happy that you finished your work in time, or a round of applause for someone who's really come back, made a comeback in terms of, putting effort to come out with something nice. Encouraging words, just words like, I'm so happy with how you people are performing. It's okay that you've not scored well, but I'm happy that you've put in some sort of an effort, and I'm sure you can put much, much more effort the next time to do well. And like I said, these small words, they go a long way in turning around or giving that motivation to children to, kind of probably focus a little more or do better in their lessons. And then, of course, even in terms of what's your response, this is also something that tends to work well. And I think Sir had also mentioned when he was talking about, when he was setting the tone for this webinar, that, we often tend to ask them, what is the answer? But what if we can ask them, what's your take on this? Or what's your response? We are giving them a chance to explore. And I'm not saying that every time we allow students to give their answers, they are going to make sense. Sometimes they will be nonsense. Sometimes they will be absolutely out of context. But what we are definitely inculcating here is creativity. We are allowing students to think out of the box. We are allowing students to give their perspective. We are allowing students to see the same text from a different angle in terms of how they understand, or relate it with some Instagram reel that they may have seen, and how that beautifully connects with the concept which is being taught right now. Of course, we need to keep our barriers in terms of the language which is accepted in the class, or the kind of content that can be shown in class. But that is something that I'm sure as educators we can keep a bar on, or a control on. So sometimes asking them or probing them, rather than giving them very direct questions that tell me what the answer to this is, a little indirect questions or a little more thought-provoking questions can be something that can work really well with students of this particular age. So of course, these strategies, like I said, they are not overnight. We can't just expect ki chalo kal se, we are going to start incorporating one of these strategies right away and we'll see magic. Does not happen like that. They are challenging, they take time, but the benefits are definitely worth it, from the small icebreaker strategy that I told you, to the point of just setting the tone that you are someone who is approachable, or who is open to listening to them. They can all slowly, it's like how we nurture a plant. You can't just directly expect, you've sowed the seed today and you'll have a plant coming out tomorrow. So it is a gradual process, but that constant watering is important to make sure that that growth is happening, and students are understanding how they've reached a point where it is important to look at different perspectives, or understand how different things are going to add up to their overall development, or their overall growth as an individual. The next is a very important strategy that I personally like a lot, which is in terms of incorporating some comedy or humor in the class. And especially, this is not limited to high school students. This is something that I know teachers use, especially with the lower classes as well. And in fact, for things like math, I have seen people use comedy lines. I've seen them use, make their own songs out of some mathematical relation that they're trying to teach them. And how with those songs, it tends to get stuck in the brain of the child, because we know that we are now dealing with a group, or we are now dealing with a generation who gets very attracted to music, who's very attracted to visuals, who's very attracted to, things like Baby Shark. They get attracted to things like that. Just an example. So maybe using, some sort of a humor, or humor in terms of some sort of a comedy combination that you created for yourself, that 1 2 3 the class is free, so before you are closing the class, it can be curated as per the age group that we are dealing with. But sometimes incorporating some sort of humor, sometimes incorporating some sort of some light moment in the class can definitely again be in terms of, again, something that can really bring them back. Because often what happens is, it's not like what we are teaching is wrong, and we often tend to take this, when the class does not perform well, it's a very natural tendency that we tend to take it as a personal failure. But this is where I would like to add that sometimes losing the class can be a reason that they are distracted, or because now they are not finding fun in the topic anymore. And that is our cue, that is our hint that throw something at them which will bring them back. Share a joke with them, share something funny that happened with you in the morning, and suddenly we realize that the entire class is back to, oh, can something like this happen with ma'am or sir also? And then they're so curious that you can decide where you want to cut off the joke, but your purpose is fulfilled. You've got the entire class back into listening to whatever you were telling them. So sometimes using humor has worked very, very well for people, and of course, but humor is something that's like a pinch of salt, which has to be, it has to be used with a lot of caution, where of course humor should not be someone that's hitting someone's personal identity, or something that is, let's say, targeting a particular social group, ethnic group. So it has to be used with caution, but it is definitely something that works very, very well, especially when you feel, and especially for subjects which are very overwhelming. For example, subjects like mathematics, subjects like, science, physics, chemistry, which are already overwhelming, where, it takes time for people to really stay in that zone. So maybe just adding a bit of humor there, especially let's say in something like chemistry, when you're teaching them organic and inorganic chemistry, when you're teaching them how different, different chemicals fuse in to make something else, maybe just crack something there, something that, makes them come back, or, gets their attention back into the class. So this is definitely something, or definitely a strategy that I would want in whatever capacities we can use in our class, because it definitely, and it does not ever put ourselves across as a fool. It in fact allows people to relate more with us, that okay, we are not the only ones who have fun. Ma'am also knows some funny content, and they connect at a different level with the educator after that. And it has shown to have beautiful outcomes when it comes to especially getting the engagement of the class back, especially when you're dealing with a topic which, like I said, is very overwhelming, or it's very serious for them to listen to. This becomes very, very good to bring them back, or to kind of, again, just mellow down the tone of the class for 2 seconds, and then okay, I think now that we've shared our laughter, let's go back to the class again. They may just be happy to go back to listening to what you have to say, because they've kind of loosened themselves with 2 minutes of joking or laughing in the class. Next, something in terms of encouraging collaboration, something that I touched upon previously, where this can be used to lessen our pressure as well, in terms of finishing a lot of content which is there, where if the content allows us, where we feel that the content is something that students can take up, we can always divide them as a group activity. And of course, not all chapters that we have are something that we can expect students to do on their own. There are some chapters which require your expertise to teach it, but there could be some segments of the chapter which are such that children can try and make effort to understand it on their own. Or maybe one of the classes can be centered at having a panel discussion, a group discussion, a debate on a particular topic that is being taught. And while those activities are being done, the learning constantly seems to happen, because when they look at a particular concept from different angles, when they listen to what different people have to say, they are definitely becoming sharper at remembering things, or writing them when it comes to writing it in their exam. So collaborative learning strategies are also very, very good, and that can be used especially with students of this age, because it's teaching them a lot of skills that they will have to use outside in terms of group work, in terms of brainstorming sessions, and B, it's helping you cover the syllabus, of course, deciding upon which segment of the syllabus can be given to the students as their work to present. Third, it's instilling a sense of community where people are accepting the fact that they have to work with different people in the class. They may not always be paired up with their friends. They may be, paired up very randomly with people, and they have to understand how, they will still have to sit through. They'll have to figure out how this project needs to be done so that it comes out, well tomorrow. And this is not as smooth as it sounds. Group works have a lot of conflict. They are always going to complain, this person didn't contribute, that person didn't contribute. And while doing all of that, they are learning a lot of different skills while also working on the content which is a part of their syllabus. So encouraging collaboration has definitely, again, is a very useful tool that can be used. And as educators, we can find out those, easier areas, or those maybe some patches in our syllabus where we feel that we can give it out, or, we can dedicate one class to just doing a brainstorming. And you may just realize that all the points which are coming in the textbook actually got discussed as a result of the brainstorming session that you organized with the class. And you can always tell them in the end that I was not even expecting you guys will think about so many different angles to it. And while you were discussing all these perspectives, 3 pages or 4 pages of the book got covered. And it's all about trial and error. See, all of these things are about trial and error. But shall we not try them at all because they may not succeed? I don't think so, because we are dealing with an age like that. So maybe giving it a try, maybe one class or half a class of debating or brainstorming may give us very, very fruitful results in terms of how beautifully the content gets discussed and covered without, a lot of attention that, or a lot of effort that we had to make from our side. The next that's very crucial is in terms of how technology is, of course, becoming a very crucial element in terms of, making our lessons better or increasing the quality of our lessons, because that's the need of the hour. Like I said, because students have so much engagement. I remember, I know we are talking about, PUC students right now, but my 10-year-old nephew tells me that, ma'am, my history classes are so boring because now there are so many nice videos that are available online, but ma'am still wants to teach us from the book. We understand better by looking at the video of what one Maharaja may have done when, there was a war that happened. So we are looking at a generation, again, like I said, fortunately or unfortunately, we are looking at a generation who does have a lot of exposure to material. So I'm not saying that all our classes have to be technology oriented. Of course, as human beings, it's not possible for us to also keep looking for content that can match what we are teaching. But here and there, wherever we can, wherever we think that something can be explained better with the help of a video or with the help of a small, clip that has been uploaded online, it certainly becomes very, very interesting for the other person. It reduces our effort in terms of, creating how we need to convey that lesson. Of course, we can pick up the lesson in brief after the video has been shown, but the effort becomes 50% there, because a lot of learning, a lot of that, that visual element has a very strong role to play with. There's, in psychology, we do these terms of retention and how your learning can be improved. And audio visuals have always have been seen as a very strong factor of retention when it comes to learning amongst, students and even older adults. So maybe that is something that can be used, and there can be a range that we can use. Sometimes we can use an online quiz or a crossword that we can create for them to see how they are progressing in the course. So whatever I did until today, tomorrow, first 5 minutes of my class, I'm going to design a crossword for them. And children love crosswords for whatever reason, whatever age. Children definitely love crosswords, and there are very good crossword makers online that can be used by educators. And just make a fun crossword, some 6, 7, 8 questions from the text that you've taught until now, and tell them the previous day that only for these 2 topics we'll have a revision tomorrow morning. They will be thinking it's going to be a boring revision where people will be asked to stand and give answers. They may be surprised to find a crossword the next day, and you may realize that they'll come back to you saying, next time also we want something so interactive, and we'll be prepared with the part. You just tell us what to prepare, and we can do something like an online crossword. So you never know how these tools and they are indirectly, making them learn small bits of the chapter. It's interesting, and it's also kind of keeping them engaged. So it then, of course, the range could go up till YouTube videos. There could be a lot of TED Talks that can be shown to them. They can listen to podcasts. They can create their own podcast as one of the classroom activities, or do a small research that they can, let's say if it's to do with physics or chemistry, in terms of something which is available to them in the public. They could try something on their own, or look at some video online, come back the next day and discuss about it. So this definitely has an advantage in terms of how retention is better, how the conceptual understanding is very strong. And again, we have to try and bring out such videos to enhance learning, especially with biology. I have seen videos to work beautifully, starting from concepts like reproductions to even how reproduction happens for plants or for animals, to so many different topics in terms of certain diseases that we are talking about. They tend to work really well when we substitute a lot of written class with just one small video that they may be asked to see. And this is where if we have smart classes, we could just show it on the projector. If it's a content that can easily be shown, we can just show it on the projector before starting the class, and they've already caught the glimpse of that video. So after that, whatever we are teaching, images from that video allows them to kind of connect with the material very, very well. So creating engaging lessons with technology definitely helps a lot in managing the classroom in a much better manner, and making sure that there's a smooth functioning of the classroom. The students are engaged, the work is getting finished, and we are happy at the end of the day as an educator. And then, of course, when we talk about technology, it's also important that the technology is not being used simply because we wanted to use a technology to make it sound interesting. But what we are showing to them actually does not make a lot of sense. That's where the purpose is completely going to get lost. So we have to be, like I said, we don't have to use too much of technology every now and then. But whenever we are wanting to use it, it should be something which is precise, something which is relevant to what is being taught to them, or when they see that video and open their book, they can connect the dots in terms of what was shown and what exactly were you trying to convey if you showed them that video. Well structured meaning, of course, it should not be so lengthy, because we know how span of attention for students has gone really low because of these Instagram reels and snap stories and this and that. The span of attention is reducing by the day. So even if we bring something like a video, but that's very long, we are again going to lose out the interest of the students. So it should be something which is well structured, crisp, small, but strong enough to deliver the message and cover up a large chunk of the material that you have to teach them. Moving ahead, of course, we have something which is becoming a need of the hour more and more with every passing day, which we need to do again to effectively manage our classroom, effectively manage the students in our classroom, which is about creating a safe and supportive space where, like I said, because we are, playing the role of a role model, it's important for us to let students know that they have a platform to share, because sometimes students are disruptive in our class, not because they want to break the flow of the class, but just because they are just genuinely upset or worried about something, or they need some space to come out and talk about something that has happened. Of course, we can't open doors for everyone, or on the same day we can't sit down with everyone to discuss what their issues are. But just when they know that they are in a space which is supportive, or they are in a space where they will be heard, that gives them the feeling that they will be heard if there is a need. And that again leads to and these are all not to do with directly managing a class, but these are all how indirectly we can automatically achieve a very effective and a disciplined but engaged class who is with me during the lesson that I'm delivering. Again, this is something that I mentioned in terms of, sometimes their answers may be out of context, but they're at least trying to be creative. They're at least trying to think out of the box. And they also understand how people can have different perspectives on the same thing, which is being discussed in the class. So there are a few things that we need to keep in mind where because we are creating a safe space where students feel they can come and speak to us, that does not mean that they're allowed to come and speak to us about anything where there is no control on the language, where there is no control on the kind of incident that is being shared. Of course, the decorum of the school has to be maintained, but it can be communicated to them in terms of what language, what comments, what statements will not be accepted in the classroom. That so they have to be gently reminded that they are open to come and discuss, but they have to respect the decorum of the class or the other students who are around. And again, we also need to remember that because we are creating an open space, like I said, it does not mean that we become their friend. They have to always remember that we are a teacher, we are a mentor, we are an educator, somebody that they can come to, but they can only come with certain decorum, certain things in mind, that some lines that they can't cross when they're coming to discuss about something, but that they are free to come and talk about something. You can have one-on-one discussions with them outside of class. And this is also where students of PUC do not like to be scolded in front of their class. Does that mean we don't ever scold or punish students? No, we need to punish them, we need to keep them on track, but sometimes this public humiliation is something that students are just not able to understand. So what bothers them more is not that ma'am scolded me. What bothers them more is I was scolded in front of my entire class. And this is where a safe and supportive environment also talks about how we have to definitely address something which is not going to be tolerated in the classroom, but maybe not doing it in the classroom can be a better decision. maybe something that can be dealt outside, maybe in the corridor, maybe a one-on-one session that can be taken with the child. Maybe if the school has a counselor, in-house counselor, they can be asked to meet the counselor because of something that was not in, not being done in the correct manner, some conduct issue that they probably represented in the class. Next is, of course, in terms of managing time effectively, which all talks about this one slogan that I would want to leave each one of you with is, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. And this is something where managing time effectively comes very, very important when it comes to dealing with children, or, dealing with anyone for that matter, that if we are failing to plan our lessons, if we are failing to plan what exactly is going to be done today, we are definitely planning to fail in whatever we are going to deliver. Now, what can this planning talk about? When you are beginning your class, you can just have 5 bullets of what we are going to talk about today. Whether you're using a presentation, or you're going to read, or you're going to teach them from the textbook, have 5 bullets, 6 bullets put out on the board so that the class is with you in terms of what are the things that you're going to be discussing today. In that case, even if you finish early, students know that they now have some buffer time where they can, do something else, or you may have something else planned for them. And this is again very crucial, where it's important to always have a plan B. And this is something that I always tell people, practice it myself, that sometimes the class may be so interactive that you'll realize you finished your portions faster. But once again, you don't want to just let them be for the remaining time that is there, whether it's a few minutes to a couple of minutes. It's always good to have a plan B. And this plan B could be another extension of the chapter that you want to discuss, or this plan B could be just some other strategy that you can do with them, that, okay, now today let's just talk about something, about anything that's, on the news, or it's trending, or just give them a brain break, tell them, okay, now for 5 minutes, all of you are allowed to talk to each other, talk to your friends. It always, again, it kind of, because you finished your class effectively, it helps the other teacher who's going to come in next, because these students have got some sort of a brain break just because you finished your portion early. So this planning is something that students may not tell. So maybe, I've often seen this happening with teachers, that they finish their portion early and now they don't know what to do. So they are just sitting on the table with their textbook or attendance register, and students are doing whatever they want to do. And this is where things tend to become very bad or very ugly, where students are unmonitored and they realize that, they can do whatever they need to do, and there's more chaos that starts to get created in the classroom. And students take this, and especially older students, they take this as an indication that you have not planned well. You didn't plan well in terms of how you had to take the class. And even though it got early, you didn't have a creative backup plan in terms of what can be done for the buffer time that we have left right now. So managing time effectively will, of course, talk about how we can have our to-do lists and this and that. I'm not emphasizing on that because I'm sure that is something we are trying to do in our everyday lives. But what I wanted to add here was, it's very nice to have a plan B, which may not be an educational plan B, but it could just be a fun plan B as well. Which again kind of breaks that monotony and allows you to reconnect with the students, and just may become an indirect way of you knowing what is happening in the children's life, or what is it that happening around. So you also stay updated, they get a platform to talk, and things kind of fall back in place. And the last technique that tends to work very well for effectively managing a classroom is something that I call as movement, where, if there have been so many studies that have compared how teachers who just stand on the desk in front of the blackboard while they are teaching versus teachers who move around the class while they are teaching, there is a huge difference in the percentage of how effective their classes are in terms of managing disruptive behavior, in terms of engaged children, in terms of again, the attention of students, and how much or how little are they engaging in nuisance activities, or speaking here and there, or writing in each other's register during the class. So movement or positioning is something which is very crucial, where even if we are using the smart board, when we've played a slide, we have enough time to just take one straight walk and come back by the time we have to change the slide. And if we are teaching from the book, again, positioning or movement around the class becomes a very smart way of making students know that they are being watched. Now, when we are teaching constantly from the front end, students have a feeling that you are probably only going to be focusing on the first few rows. Even if you're looking at them, they have this impression it's just the first few rows. We can do whatever. And you are highly likely to lose their attention in the class. On the contrary, if you're constantly moving around the class when you're teaching, kids know that at no point there can be a possibility that you'll come across them or you'll cross them, and they know that if they're doing something mischievous, they will be caught. And this makes them more alert, this makes them more attentive in the class, and this automatically, without making any effort, without bringing in any punishment strategy, we are able to control the chances of disruptive behavior in the class. And this is something that I had mentioned in my previous segment with another group of teachers from high school. And when I met them again after a month, 2, 3 of them actually came up to me and told me that, we tried this movement around the class and it's actually worked. It's worked for us because students are constantly aware of your presence. So they are not lost in their own world, because when you're just standing at one place and teaching them, or just, horizontally walking there, they kind of tend to lose contact, because any which ways it's hard to keep them, attentive in the class. So this positioning or movement works extremely well to gauge their attention, to keep them involved, and to make sure that they are with you when you are teaching. And it's just a good physical activity for us. It just may be a good workout for us. While we are walking around, we are also talking to them, we are delivering our content, we are also making sure everyone in the room hears what we are saying, because we are moving around the room. And it of course allows to kill a lot of unwanted behaviors, or those unwanted gossips and those chit chats that keep happening, especially towards the second half of the class. So on that note, a few concluding remarks from my end. So of course this is not as easy as it sounds. Of course it's critical. It takes its own sweet little time. It takes its own trial and error in terms of the group that we are dealing with, in terms of the kind of students that we are dealing with. And with every generation changing, of course the demands from us as an educator are changing. And I think this is one line that I felt was very close, and I could really relate to it, was when high schoolers have so much in their bucket list. They have exam pressure, they have parental expectations, they have relationships that they're a part of, they have other issues that they are dealing with. Managing the classroom effectively can definitely be something that can be on our bucket list as well as an educator. That what can we do to make sure that there is some element of fun, there is some element of comedy, there is some element of respect in the class, while making sure that our syllabus does not get compromised for any reason, and how we can aid learning by giving them some things, by allowing them to have peer teaching, or have them work together in groups. So while we are dealing with them, we are also inculcating a lot of indirect tips, or we are also inculcating a lot of indirect skills in our children as they are getting older and getting more prepared to step out in the real world. So small efforts, timeless efforts, don't need equipments, starting right from a smile that I started with, to some sort of a walking around in the room, to allowing them to answer even if it's out of context, to fostering some sort of positive relationships like empathy, like gratitude. We could make them write notes for other students in the class. Any one thing that you like about any classmate, you don't have to write your name, and you can just have a gratitude jar in the class. And what we are doing is, indirectly, we are also teaching them skills of gratitude, teaching them skills of respect. Of course, if we see that there is a lot of unwanted content coming in, that can also be addressed indirectly, that this respect has to be understood when we are growing up to become responsible adults. So this is also something which is going to help us be smoother in our relationships with children, make it a little more smoother for us to handle them, because that's finally what we want to do. We want to enter the class with a smile and also come back home with a smile, so that we are again prepared and geared to go back the next day and deal with the same group of students again, but a different content that needs to be shared. So on that note, thank you very much for this chance to, I think, Dayanand Sagar University, to Bhairavi ma'am, Shinde sir, I think all of you, thank you for giving me this chance. And I hope I've lived up to the expectations of the audience. And yes, that's my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chetna. Lovely listening to the kind of thought processes that you have. And just to conclude, or just to let you know that we have a lot of principals and teachers across India, from various schools, who have put this across on their projector systems, or they have arranged a bigger setup into their conference room to hear you out. Idea is that yes, there are those small uh, points that at some point of time we may not be able to recollect, or we as teachers, we may not be able to really get on to understanding how do we improve ourselves, how do we make our lives better. At some point of time it becomes very monotonous, that what am I doing
Absolutely.
morning in. And when I happen to see the kind of pressures that the students are going through, actually students do not even know what this pressure is. It's actually the pressure created by the society and the parents.
Absolutely.
Morning 7 o'clock, these poor kids move out. Then they have their classes, then they have extra classes, then they have
Absolutely.
something called as JE preparation, something called as CET preparation. I don't know what all dramas today are there in the market today. But at the end, the faculty is tired, very much tired. And they really don't know that how many days is this life going to continue.
Absolutely.
How many days? For us
Absolutely.
at least they understand promotions. But I imagine faculties, who are today there for a PU college or for the senior secondary. It's a very, very tough life. But then in that, can I make things interesting is what is our goal. And that's the sole purpose why we get into organizing these kind of programs. In fact, very soon we are going to organize another program, which is very important from all the teachers' point of view, is on the suicide tendencies of students.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, we have a very senior doctor from our Sagar hospitals, Dr. Vikram Prabhu, who had once conducted one session with us on depression. And we saw phenomenal attendance. And the question answers just went on and went on and went on.
True. It's a very relatable topic too, I think, because especially for that age, it becomes very, very important.
Absolutely. So, this is a note, maybe a small note to the teachers and principals before I hand it over to Bhairavi for the Q&A, because a lot of Q&As have been received. To all the principals and teachers, if you ever want to conduct any exclusive sessions on the topic that has been taken today by Dr. Chetna Lapatia, you can always get in touch with Ms. Bhairavi, or we will also share the contact details if it is permissible by Dr. Chetna, so that individual PU colleges can also look at inviting Dr. Chetna if it is possible from her side, or if she's free available, and she can conduct exclusive sessions for you. The commercials can always be directly between Dr. Chetna as well as the particular colleges. But then I, very rarely see training programs being organized for PU college teachers. If you are able to do that at least once in 2 months or once in 3 months, you will see that there is a lot of change, a lot of positiveness brought in the teachers. If the teachers remain positive, everything else will be positive. Over to you, Bhairavi.
Thank you for the wonderful session, Dr. Chetna. Couldn't stop listening to you. It was really good. Everything was covered. I'm sure all our participants have really, got taken good takeaways from the session. Now, coming to the questions, we have so many questions actually now. A few of them I'll just take up with you.
Yeah.
There is a question from Mr. Manoj Kumar Jaina. How to manage class effective where we have one side to complete the syllabus portions and exams, and other activities of the college are also there. So how do we manage that with the limited time we will have?
See, absolutely. I think very genuine question. Like I mentioned, even when I was talking that, this is constantly there. You have curricular, you have extracurricular. So What we can do is, because in that limited time, like I said, in that point, assigning topics to groups can become very, very, it can be a good strategy, because that way we are able to cover a lot of different topics by assigning it to the groups, and there is a lot of peer learning that is happening, and the content is also getting covered in a shorter period of time, because we can't even stop them from participating. This is their age to participate and explore their skills. So maybe with that limited time, we can try and look for maybe some interactive videos which can in a smaller period of time convey a lot of content or convey a lot of understanding to students. Or if the kind of students that we have, if it permits to make them into groups, we can always do that to and assign them different tasks that and children feel very elevated. They feel very good when they are giving this peer learning, that we are getting a chance to teach our own friends. And sometimes the kind of the way they curate the chapter is so beautiful that you realize, oh, this is like very beautifully that the chapter got covered in a shorter period of time. So I think that can definitely be a strategy that can be tried.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Second question is how to control overconfident children and attraction seeker students who are continuously trying to grab attentions and disturbing the class.
So if you remember, this is the first question that I started with, that as educators, do we want to have an extremely quiet classroom? And to be honest, we also miss when our class is too quiet. So there are going to be students who will sometimes be overconfident. There will be attention seeking children. But, there are two ways of looking at it. One could be where if we see that this attention seeking is becoming too much, it may be important for us to look at the root problem. It may be such that when we speak to them, we find out that, they don't have an opportunity at home to get attention, which is why they are trying to gain attention in the school. So we may realize that their attention seeking is not because they want to disturb the class, but it's because of a genuine issue that they are fighting or genuine problem that they are dealing with. In that case, they have to be handled differently. But in general, if you have people who are a little overconfident in class, throw the ball in their court. Make them volunteers, that tomorrow I want so and so person to read up on this topic and come and teach in the class. The minute we make them volunteers, we've heard of that super Spider-Man quote, with power comes responsibility. So the minute we make these overconfident children we volunteer, they immediately start realizing that, okay, it's either they will come out with their overconfidence, or indirectly they'll understand that, okay, enough of being over smart in the class, you should calm down. So we are not trying to put anyone down, we are not trying to pick anyone from the class, but making them volunteers or giving them certain tasks to do can kind of help to tone them down or bring them down in terms of what they are doing. And like I said, in the other case for attention seeking, it sometimes may be important to go a little deeper to understand, is that coming out only because the purpose is to disturb the class, or is it coming out for a much deeper reason that may be bothering them?
So do you mean like such students need some parental guidance? I mean, the teachers can even speak to parents.
See, again, because we are dealing with that age, it's a very sensitive age. So maybe they don't want the topic to be discussed with the parent at all. So in that case, maybe if the school, like I said, if the school has an in-house counselor, maybe the children can, the student can be asked to speak to the counselor about what is happening. Because a lot of time, the kind of issues high school students have, they don't want parents to be involved. And that's their first, that's the first thing when they speak to the teacher also, कि आप मेरे parents को मत बताना कि मैं आपसे ये discuss कर रहा हूँ, but because I got this platform, I want to speak to you, but please don't let this go out anywhere. So they may genuinely be struggling with a lack of attention at home, and after home, the only place for them is the school, right? So they will try to grab whatever they can from the school. So maybe there could be certain students whose issues have to be addressed on a different platform than just trying to, punish them all the time or getting angry at them all the time.
Dr. Chaitra has a very interesting question here from Soumitra Maji. Teaching mathematics is very challenging because students have phobia in maths, and maths has less models and activities to show. Hence, we have very less opportunity to demonstrate our topics like science, social science, and other subjects. Kindly suggest something to make maths interesting.
Hmm. Tricky question, but again, very genuine question. But once in, I think with mathematics, of course, there are restrictions. But again, I think there are a lot of videos that can be used to make the concept interesting. There are certain videos where they've done a lot of visuals, so they show numbers flying in and numbers getting clubbed with some other numbers to come up with a particular application or relation. So maybe such things can be used to kind of enhance or just make the subject a little more interesting, because even today if someone asks us, we are all scared of math. No matter how well we've scored, we do have that phobia. So I think using some sort of some sort of math puzzles which are available, or telling them how in their everyday lives how they can use a particular concept that is being taught. Of course, we can't teach the entire topic of trigonometry with a real life example, but some association that is happening there, we can do that. Using flashcards works very well with subjects like math, because they may not have a lot of attractive content to show, but using flashcards or using small quizzes, they become, they are different from the blackboard and, writing of the numbers. Flashcards usually work as a very good way to connect with students when it comes to numbers and the entire phobia that we have around it. So, and flashcards are they can be created by the teacher, or, there are a lot of, again, online platforms which do provide flashcards as well, which I think tends to work well with students.
It's very interesting. We need to look at, because mathematics, I understand for the faculty for the first year, if you're teaching for the first year, they themselves will be tensed. But over a period of years, when you start getting experience and you know that, okay, this is going to be my topic, the amount of research that you can do in that to make it like a storytelling, to make it with some very real life examples into it,
Absolutely.
will actually bring out the art of teaching. And let me tell you, such teachers will never be forgotten by the students.
Absolutely not.
They
Absolutely
will say
not.
that there is a teacher who, in my very crucial year, when I was in a pressure cooker of marks, they made me understand the concept so beautifully that I'm never going to forget it. And
Absolutely.
I keep listening to this from my vice chancellor. He was a professor in computer science, and he keeps telling this always whenever he comes in on the platform. Today, unfortunately, we have our medical college batch opening, and he was invited last minute, because generally we have the chancellor and the pro chancellor going in there. So there was some communication gap, and the timing of 3 o'clock was shifted to 11 o'clock, so he had to rush there.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I never had something called as an exam. I had an open book exam.
Yeah.
I used to challenge my students that get me the answer for the question.
Yes.
And what does this mean? This means the confidence today of how you are teaching.
Yes.
This is something that I would want the PU college teachers to understand, that if you are able to reach that level, you see the satisfaction that you have. At the end of the day, it is satisfaction that you need to have. I have one question that I would like to ask here, which is coming from Mr. Manoj Kumar Jina.
Mm-hmm.
How to manage class effectively, where we have one side, we have to complete the syllabus, complete the portions, exams, and other activity colleges are keeping. How to manage with limited time?
Yeah, I think we addressed this question to start with.
Yes, this was the first question actually.
Okay,
I think
okay,
that was
okay.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
one appreciation and question by Ms. Deepanvita Bhattacharji. She says, first of all, thank you for your session. So encouraging, ma'am. What about the children's tendency of using slang among themselves? And to continue this question, there's one more question by Mr. Jamil Ahmed. He's saying how to handle the rowdy type questions. So this you can answer.
Rowdy type. Okay. See, once again, I think I will stick to my ground when it comes to using slangs. We can't ignore the fact that they have a lot of exposure to all sorts of content. But what I started my presentation with, that, setting certain expectations from the class and setting certain understanding in terms of what is expected from them, what is not expected from them. That is where how we need to keep, cutting it down so that they know that this is inappropriate to be used. This is where non-verbal gestures work very well. Where if somebody is using a word and you just raise your eyebrows, that should be a message enough to communicate that this is not something that you're going to really respect in the class, whether in the class or even outside. It is not something that is going to be respected. It's a way, kids of that age talk. Their sentences don't finish without those words. But this is where, and this is actually the right time when they can be told that things like these will not really be very appreciated, whether they are being used in my classroom. I can't be selfish as an educator that it does not get used in my classroom only. This message has to go across through maybe my expectations right at the beginning, or through, things that we are teaching, that these, as fancy as they may sound, it is not something that is going to be accepted, whether inside the classroom or outside. And that is where, that is where I said being strict as a faculty is important, where we think that, if you're friendly, we'll be their favorite educator, but it's also important to remain strict so that they understand certain boundaries that can't be crossed, or certain words that cannot be used in the class. And for the other one, which said rowdy students, what exactly are we referring to? Is it the same as children who are misbehaving constantly in the class?
No.
Or
He has mentioned how to handle the rowdy type students. We have applied all the steps, and as you explained, the minimizing, maximizing, etc., but no results. So please suggest some more measures can be taken to handle
I think
such
this can possibly be a point where, the parents have to be involved, where, something has to be understood in terms of maybe it has to be addressed to the administration, or it has to be addressed to the parents. Because if they are constantly trying to disturb the environment of the class, it is going to annoy us as well. It is going to waste our time as well. So I think if it's reached a point where none of the strategies have worked, then maybe there is a requirement to now involve the other parties as well, to have some strict control on the behavior of the child. Because if you've already said you've used possibly all steps, then I think it becomes necessary to involve the other important parties as well, to see how this can be resolved. Because one rowdy child, not if he or she is not getting control, this will become a pattern for the other children to pick it up as well. They will also feel that this is the new normal that they can choose. So maybe involving the other important bodies becomes important at this point, that the parents, the administration, they're all, they're taken together to discuss of how or what could be the reasons, and what really can be the way of dealing with them, or to reducing this behavior.
Okay, there is one question which is anonymous. The speaker, the participant hasn't given the name. He's or she's asking, what should be the policy for the late project submission or makeup work policy? It should be strict or no?
Well, it should be strict, absolutely. Like I said, being friendly is different, but maintaining discipline is absolutely a necessary. So there definitely should be a policy. And what I have seen normally that has worked is, you can have some percentage mark deduction per day. So every one day that it gets delayed, you have certain percentage of marks that will get reduced. So they know with every passing day, it is going to, come lower and lower and lower. Because can you take it without telling them anything? You are losing your respect as an educator. So then if you're giving the same mark to a latecomer and the same mark to somebody who's submitting on time, that understanding will never be established. So beyond a point, of course, if it has been repeating for a very long period of time, tell them you're not going to accept it at all. But on the other side, because we also have that pressure of marking every child's work, so then of course, we can keep these mark deduction by the day. And if it goes beyond a week, then you are just going to give them the bare minimum passing marks. And no matter how good their work is, you are not going to give them more. Only a possible addition that can be made here is, if they have a genuine certificate or a genuine medical reason for a delay, then that's the only place where you can possibly be a little flexible with marking them or accepting their late submission. But if it is something that is coming out of habit, or something where the student shows that he or she is not concerned about the deadline, then definitely a mark deduction policy should be there to tell them that just because you're turning it in late does not mean I will accept it without any without any repercussions, or without any negative marking, and that hits them hard, especially for students. See, it's for students who don't care. Even if they get passing marks, it is going to be there. We'll have that pile of late submissions on our desk, but we have to do our best to see where we can cut it down. And I have seen this percentage mark deduction has worked well for students, where they've understood that if they're submitting it beyond the point, they will not be able to score no matter how good they have worked on the assignment.
Okay. The second question here is how to handle students who may have emotional issues in the classroom.
Again, very, very relatable question. But like I said, this is the time when, through our text, like I mentioned when I was talking, that, through our text, we need to teach them something very important, which we call as empathy, that they need to start we need to start teaching them certain skills where they have to understand how, everyone can have emotional issues, and how it's important to bring it out, or how you should be able to discuss about them. Because often during this age, what we feel is this is something that's only happening with me. We don't realize that there are so many other people who may be dealing with something similar. So maybe in that case, showing them some small videos or engaging them in some sort of role playing sessions, that hypothetically, let's say that one of you has had a very bad breakup, or something like that. So how do you think we should be dealing in such a situation? Sometimes these role playing sessions teaches them very different skills, or gives them different perspectives on how a situation that is happening in their life can be handled. Anonymously, they can be allowed to share their experiences. They can be also taught to practice something known as gratitude, that I mentioned earlier also, that write anonymous good things about your batchmates. And again, when we're talking about emotional issues, maybe addressing them directly in the class may not be possible. So while you meet this child, maybe in the corridor or in the cafeteria when he or she is eating, maybe you could just start with an icebreaker question. Like I said, what did you have for breakfast today? Which movie did you see last? And once that connect starts forming, the child starts feeling that it's okay to sometimes discuss the issues that you may be having, because it's only then that you're going to get a solution from the other end. And this is where it becomes, or they start understanding that emotional issues are something they will have as a result of the age that they are in. But if they are talking about it, if they are discussing about it, that will definitely be better in terms of help them better to come out of the issue that they are experiencing. And it's very important for them to understand that they are not the only ones experiencing this. There may be many other people who are going through the same thing, and that's when they learn a lot from each other in terms of how something can be dealt better. And like I said, they don't need to reveal their identity. They don't need to reveal that I am the one who's having this issue. As an educator, we can take down certain issues and put them up in role-playing sessions, where whoever that student who had that problem understands when the discussion is happening of what can be done to deal better with that emotional issue. So this is definitely what I understand and how I will look at this question.
Okay. One last question for the day today. Should students be allowed to use mobile phones during the class?
I don't see a reason why they should be allowed, to be very honest. Because yes, mobile phones are becoming important in the sense that some students may need it, let's say, to commute, or after school they may need to book a cab, or there may be an emergency that they may have to adhere to. So even if we are permitting them to get mobiles to school, it should definitely be kept in a locker space where they keep it when they enter school and pick it up only when they are leaving from school. Otherwise, at a high school level, I personally don't see a reason for students to carry their mobile phones to class. And if it's any video or any material that we want to share with the student, I think we can use that with the help of smart boards that we have, or we can give them the video as a homework to see and come for the next day. But in my opinion, people may feel that I'm old school, but in my opinion, I don't see a need to carry mobile phones in school, because then keeping a control over what they are seeing or whether they are listening to what is happening in the class or not becomes extremely difficult for the educator to monitor. So I definitely that's something that does not it does not sound very beneficial, especially from an educator's perspective. I don't think that is something that is going to enhance the functioning of the class.
I see one interesting question. Probably since Bhairav has already announced the last question, but I said, okay, this is one more question that has
I
come
just
in.
saw the question.
How we could help and make study plans effective? I do understand this from a faculty's point of view. Knowing that the students are very busy, over busy in study, in school, private coaching classes, hobby classes in their schedule. So effectively, how do we make study plans effective? They would like to have your suggestions on this.
So this is from the educator's perspective or from the child's perspective?
Educator's perspective.
From the educator's perspective.
I, as a teacher,
So,
how I can make my plans effective? My study
see,
plans.
effective, absolutely. Like I have been speaking about, that we can make it effective only by making it more engaging. So if we know that they are going to other private coaching classes, the same material is being covered like that, where they are being made to make notes, that does not mean that we step back from our responsibility. Ki ye kahin aur to pad rahe hain, so we don't need to teach it to them again. But what we can do is we can make it more engaging by making it, let's say, more real life, or adding more real life examples to it, so that it doesn't become overburdening for them. But we are also covering everything that we need to as an educator. But I think making it more engaging or making it more fun gives them some sort of, allows them to relate, allows learning, but also gives them some sort of a brain break when they are dealing with you. I absolutely agree with your point in terms of the pressure, but that's definitely what our focus should be, that if we can make it a little more engaging, if we can make it a little more interactive and fun, then they are definitely getting, a holistic approach to understanding or to learning and reading the materials that they have. I hope that answers your question. So to make our study plans effective, we just have to try and make it a little more interactive, a little more engaging, so that, somewhere we are not giving up on our responsibility as a teacher, but we are also giving them a different angle of looking at the same thing that we are teaching by making it a little more fun and a little more, associated with real life examples, like I said. So, yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Over to you,
A
Bhairavi.
few takeaways I can just suggest all the, I can take up from the participants. First is smile when you enter the class, and few teachers even replied to me saying that, yes, we do follow this also, but still whatever inputs you have given, they are really good. Have your plan B. Be a friendly teacher, approachable teacher, but but you should be strict where it is required. Give a brain break, which is very important. Be prepared. Manage your times and movement in the class, which will keep an eye on the students when you are teaching. Thank you so much, Dr. Chetna, for the lovely session. I would request all the participants to, let us know if they have any suggestions for our next future webinars. We can definitely look forward for that. And we'll be sharing the e-certificates to the registered participants in next 2 to 3 working days. Thank you so much.